my brother's wedding, he refused me food and mocked me. My parents agreed with him. But then, he almost didn't go to the wedding. Standing in front of the mirror that afternoon, adjusting the collar of a suit he rarely wore, he wondered why he had even said yes. The invitation had arrived weeks earlier, thin and formal, with no personal message, just his name printed neatly, like an obligation rather than a welcome. His brother's wedding. Anyone else might have been excited. Family, celebration, food, music. But for him, family gatherings always carried an unspoken weight. There was history there. Years of quiet comparisons, jokes that stung more than they seemed, and a feeling that he was always the extra piece that didn't quite fit. Still, he went. He told himself it was the right thing to do. He didn't want to give anyone a reason to say he didn't try. He didn't want to be blamed later for missing such an important day. So he drove to the venue alone, rehearsing polite smiles in his head. The wedding was held at a large banquet hall just outside the city. White flowers lined the entrance. Soft music played as guests arrived, laughing and hugging. Everything looked perfect from the outside. Inside, it felt different. As soon as he stepped in, he noticed the looks. Not openly rude, but curious. Some relatives nodded politely. Others looked away too quickly. No one came to greet him right away. He stood there for a moment, holding a small envelope with his gift, unsure where to go. Eventually, he spotted his parents near the front, talking with relatives. He walked over and greeted them. His mother smiled briefly. "Oh, you made it." His father nodded without standing up. "You're a little early?" That was it. No hug, no warmth. Just that. He swallowed the awkward feeling and took a seat where an usher directed him. It was far from the front, near people he didn't know, friends of the bride most likely. They smiled kindly, but he could tell they were wondering who he was and why he looked so out of place. The ceremony itself was beautiful. His brother stood confidently at the altar, laughing easily, completely in his element. The bride looked happy, glowing even. Everyone clapped. Some people cried. He clapped too. He meant it. Despite everything, he was genuinely glad his brother was happy, but not once did his brother look in his direction. After the ceremony, guests moved into the reception hall. Long tables were set with white cloths, candles, and name cards. The smell of food filled the air, rich and comforting. He searched for his name. It wasn't near his parents. It wasn't near the wedding party. It was at a corner table, again, with strangers. He told himself it didn't matter. It was just a seat. Still, the message felt familiar. As people settled in, drinks were poured and conversations grew louder. Waiters moved smoothly between tables, carrying plates and trays. He watched as bread baskets were placed down. Glasses were refilled. Time passed. The first course arrived. Plates were set in front of everyone at his table. Everyone except him. At first, he thought it was a mistake. He waited, hands folded, eyes following the waiter. Maybe they'd come back. They didn't. He leaned slightly toward the waiter when he passed again. "Excuse me," he said quietly. "I think I didn't get a plate." The waiter checked his list and frowned. One moment. Minutes passed. People around him began eating. Someone asked him politely if he was okay. He smiled and nodded, embarrassed. Then his brother appeared. He walked over with a grin, holding a drink. "What's wrong?" he asked loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. I think I was skipped," he said calmly. "I didn't get food." His brother laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, that?" he said. "Yeah, that's on purpose." The words didn't make sense at first. "What do you mean?" he asked. His brother shrugged. "You didn't really need a meal, did you? You always eat too much anyway." A few people chuckled awkwardly, unsure if it was a joke. He felt his face heat up. "I was invited," he said. "I RSVP'd." His brother leaned closer, smiling. Relax. Don't make a scene. It's my wedding. He looked around, hoping someone would step in. His parents were only a few tables away. Surely they had heard. His mother was watching. He caught her eye. She looked away. He stood up slowly and walked toward them, trying to keep his voice steady. "Mom?" he said. "Dad, I wasn't served dinner." His mother sighed. "Why are you doing this now?" "I'm just asking for food," he said. His father frowned. "It's not a big deal. Stop embarrassing us, embarrassing them." He glanced back at his brother, who was now watching with an amused expression. "Everyone else is eating," he said quietly. His mother crossed her arms. "Your brother is under a lot of stress today." "Don't add to it. So, I just don't eat?" he asked. His brother walked over again. "See? This is what I mean. Always making things about you." Something inside him sank. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was intentional. He returned to his seat slowly. Conversations resumed around him, but he could feel eyes on his back. The people at his table looked uncomfortable now. One woman whispered, "That wasn't very nice." He nodded faintly. As the next course came out, again, no plate for him. His stomach growled. But it wasn't hunger that hurt the most. It was the realization, even here, even today. Even in public, they had chosen him as the one person it was okay to humiliate. He sat there, hands clenched under the table, listening to laughter echo across the room. Glasses clinked. Music played softly. And no one stopped it, except someone who had been watching very closely. From across the room, a woman in a black suit closed her folder slowly and stood up. And she wasn't smiling. He sat there longer than he should have. The room felt louder now, even though nothing had changed. Forks scraped plates, people laughed, music played softly in the background. But to him, every sound felt sharp, like it was aimed directly at him. The empty space in front of him stood out more with every passing minute. A waiter passed again, carrying a tray of drinks. The waiter avoided his eyes this time. That hurt more than the laughter earlier. It meant the message had already spread. "Don't serve him." He straightened his back and forced his hands to relax. He would not cry here, not in this room, not in front of people who already believed he was the problem. Across the table, a man leaned toward him. "Hey," the man whispered gently, "do you want some of mine?" He shook his head slowly.
"Thank you,"
he said.
"but it's okay. It wasn't okay."
But he didn't want pity. Pity always came with questions. And questions led to explanations. He was tired of explaining himself. The speeches began. The best man stood up first. He talked about childhood memories, about how kind and generous the groom was. People laughed and clapped. His brother smiled proudly, lifting his glass. Every word felt heavy. Then the father of the groom stood. His father. He spoke about family, about how important it was to stick together, about respect, about forgiveness. The words felt empty. He watched his parents as they smiled and nodded along, as if nothing strange had happened at all, as if their son hadn't been deliberately ignored, just a few steps away. He wondered if they truly believed they were doing the right thing, or if they had simply chosen the easier side. The next course came out. Again, plates appeared everywhere but in front of him. This time, no one laughed. The joke was over. Now it was just uncomfortable. People noticed. Whispers moved between tables. He caught fragments of words. "Did you see? That's odd. Isn't that his brother?" His brother noticed too. He leaned toward his new wife and said something. She glanced over, confused. Her smile faded slightly. She looked at the empty seat, then at him. Their eyes met. She looked away. He didn't blame her. This wasn't her fight. She was probably seeing this side of the family for the first time. A child from another table wandered over and pointed at his place setting. "Where's your food?" the child asked loudly. The mother rushed over, embarrassed, pulling the child back. "Sorry," she said quickly. He smiled weakly. "It's fine," but it wasn't fine. He excused himself and stood up, walking toward the restroom just to breathe. In the hallway, away from the noise, he leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. He told himself not to let this break him. He had survived worse than this. Footsteps approached. "Hey," a soft voice said. He opened his eyes. It was one of the venue staff, a woman in a black suit. The same woman he had seen earlier, holding a folder and watching the room carefully. "I wanted to check on you," she said quietly. "You're listed as a guest for the full dinner." He nodded. "I know." She hesitated. "You weren't served intentionally?" "Yes," he said simply. Her jaw tightened. "I see." She didn't ask more questions. She didn't tell him to calm down or stop causing trouble. She simply nodded once. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "Please take a seat. I'll handle this." For the first time that night, he felt something shift. He returned to the table. Dessert menus were being passed out now. Still nothing for him. His brother looked relaxed again, confident that nothing would happen. He laughed loudly, clinking glasses with friends. The parents stayed quiet, pretending not to notice. Then the music stopped. Not suddenly. Just gently faded out. The woman in the black suit stood near the center of the room. She didn't raise her voice, but her presence carried. "May I have everyone's attention for a moment?" she said. The room slowly went silent. His brother frowned. "What's this about?" he muttered. The woman smiled politely. "There appears to be a misunderstanding regarding the guest list and meal service." She opened her folder. "Our records show that all confirmed guests were to be served dinner," she continued. "However, one guest has been excluded by a direct request." Murmurs spread through the room. His brother stiffened. The woman looked directly at him. "Sir, you requested that one specific guest not receive any food. Is that correct?" Every head turned. His brother laughed nervously. "It was just a joke." The woman didn't laugh. Our staff was instructed clearly. This was not a mistake. Silence. The bride looked at her husband. "What?" she whispered. His mother stood up quickly. "This is being taken out of context," she said. "There's no need to make this public." The woman's expression remained calm. "I apologize, but the situation has already become public." People were staring now. Some looked shocked. Others looked angry. The woman turned toward him. "Sir," she said kindly, "would you like your meal served now, or would you prefer another arrangement?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. He realized something important in that moment. This wasn't about food anymore. This was about being seen. He stood up slowly. His legs felt weak, but his voice was steady. "Thank you," he said, "but I think I'm done here." Gasps echoed. His brother's face turned red. "You're really going to do this?" he snapped. "On my wedding day?" He looked at his brother calmly. "You already did this." He turned to his parents. They couldn't meet his eyes. "I didn't come here to fight," he said. "I came because I believed family mattered." The room was completely silent now. He picked up the gift envelope from the table and placed it gently beside his brother's plate. "I hope your marriage brings you happiness," he said. "But I won't stay where I'm treated like this." Then he walked toward the exit. No one stopped him. Behind him, whispers exploded into open conversation. Guests leaned together. The perfect wedding atmosphere was gone. Outside, the air felt cool and clean. He took a deep breath, deeper than he had all night. Behind the glass doors, he could still see movement. Arguments. confusion, and for the first time, he didn't feel small. But inside the hall, the consequences were only just beginning. He didn't know how long he stood outside. The cool night air felt strange after the heavy warmth of the hall. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from everything he had held inside for years finally breaking loose. He expected anger. Or regret. Instead, he felt calm. Inside the banquet hall, things were falling apart. The moment the doors closed behind him, the silence he left behind exploded into noise. Guests turned to each other, voices low but fast. Chairs shifted, forks stopped moving. The bride was the first to speak. "What was that?" she asked, her smile gone completely. His brother forced a laugh. "He's always dramatic. You know how he is." But the words sounded weak now. The wedding planner stepped closer, still calm, still professional. "This is no longer about drama," she said. "This is about a deliberate request that caused public discomfort." The bride turned to her husband. "You told them not to feed him?" He rolled his eyes. "It was supposed to be a joke." "He takes everything personally." "A joke?" she repeated. "You embarrassed him in front of everyone." The parents stepped in quickly. "Let's not overreact," his mother said. "He's always been sensitive." Several guests looked at her sharply. One woman stood up. "Sensitive?" He sat there through 3 courses with nothing. Another guest nodded. My table noticed, too. That wasn't funny. The groom's face tightened. "It's my wedding," he snapped. "Why is everyone acting like I committed a crime?" The wedding planner spoke again, firmer now. "Sir, you violated the agreement with the venue. All confirmed guests must be treated equally." The bride looked around the room. She noticed the whispers, the looks, the mood that had completely changed. "This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life," she said quietly. And for the first time, the groom had no answer. Outside, he sat in his car but didn't start the engine. His phone buzzed. A message from his mother. "You embarrassed us. You could have handled this quietly." He stared at the screen for a long time, then locked the phone without replying. Another message came, this time from his father. "We didn't raise you to walk out like that." He let out a short, tired laugh. Inside the hall, the dinner service tried to continue, but it felt forced now. Conversations kept circling back to what had happened. Guests asked questions. Why was he treated like that? Is this normal in their family? The bride's relatives looked uncomfortable. Some looked angry on her behalf. She pulled her husband aside. "You need to explain," she said, "right now." He lowered his voice. "He's always been the problem. My parents know that." She shook her head. "No. I just watched 3 adults ignore their own son while he was humiliated." The groom glanced at his parents. They stood stiffly, avoiding attention. "That didn't look normal," she said. "That looked cruel." The wedding planner returned, holding the folder again. "For transparency," she said. "Several guests have asked what happened." "How would you like this addressed?" the groom scoffed. "Tell them it was a misunderstanding." The planner met his eyes. "Then you should correct it publicly." The bride nodded. "Yes."
"You should." Reluctantly, the groom stood and tapped his glass.
The sound echoed through the room. "I just want to say," he began, "that earlier situation was misunderstood." The murmurs didn't stop. He cleared his throat. "My brother tends to overreact. It wasn't meant to hurt anyone." A man near the back spoke up. "Then why didn't he get food?" Another voice followed. "Why did your parents back it?" The groom's face flushed. "This isn't the time for this." But it already was. The bride stood up beside him. "Actually," she said, her voice steady, "it is." Everyone turned to her. I didn't know about this, she said. And I'm not okay with it. The room went completely silent. She looked at her husband. You hurt someone on purpose today, and you expected no consequences. His parents stepped forward. Please, his mother said. This is family business. The bride shook her head. No. This became everyone's business when it happened in front of all of us. Some guests quietly clapped. Others nodded. The groom felt the room slipping away from him. Meanwhile, outside, he finally started the car. But before he could drive off, someone knocked on the window. He opened it. It was the wedding planner. I just wanted to say, she said gently, you handled yourself with dignity. He nodded. Thank you. She hesitated. If you'd like, I can arrange for your gift to be returned. He thought for a moment. No, he said. Let it stay. She smiled softly. I hope things get better for you. As she walked back inside, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a number he didn't expect. His sister-in-law. I'm so sorry, the message read. I didn't know. You didn't deserve that. He closed his eyes. Inside the hall, the celebration never fully recovered. The music resumed, but the joy was gone. Guests left early. Conversations were quiet and awkward. The groom's parents sat alone at their table, suddenly aware of the looks they were getting. The bride kept her distance from her husband, and the groom realized something too late. The person he thought he could hurt without consequence was the very reason everyone now saw him differently. Outside, he drove away. He didn't know what the future would look like. He didn't know if his family would ever understand. But for the first time in his life, he felt like he had chosen himself. And that felt like the beginning of something new. The next morning felt strange. He woke up without the tight feeling in his chest that he had carried for years. The sunlight coming through the window looked softer somehow, like the world was not pressing down on him anymore. For the first time, he did not check his phone right away. When he finally did, there were many messages. Most were from his parents. We need to talk. You took things too far. Family problems should stay private. He read them slowly and placed the phone back down. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even sad. He was tired. Bran. Meanwhile, at the hotel where the wedding guests stayed, the morning was tense. People avoided the groom and his parents during breakfast. Conversations stopped when they entered the room. The bride sat alone, staring at her coffee. She had barely slept. Across from her, her husband rubbed his face, frustration written all over him. I can't believe he did that to us, he muttered. She looked up. You mean what you did to him? He scoffed. You're taking his side? I'm taking the side of basic decency, she said quietly. That hurt more than yelling would have. Back at his apartment, he made himself breakfast. Just toast and eggs. Simple. Normal, something he had been denied the night before, yet it felt symbolic now. He thought about the years leading up to that wedding. The jokes, the comparisons, the way his achievements were always smaller, his mistakes always bigger. He finally understood something important. It was never about him being difficult. It was about him being convenient. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was his brother. You ruined my wedding, the message said. He stared at it for a long time. Then he typed back slowly. No, you showed everyone who you really are. He didn't send another message. At the hotel, the bride packed her bag. Her mother watched quietly from the bed. Are you really going to confront them again? Her mother asked. Yes, she said. Because if I don't, this becomes my life too. She walked down to the lobby, where the groom and his parents were already arguing in low voices. This is all his fault, the mother said. He's always been jealous. The bride stepped forward. Stop. They turned to her. You don't get to rewrite what I saw, she said calmly. I watched a grown man humiliate his brother, and 2 parents support it. The father sighed. You don't understand our family. She nodded. You're right, and I'm starting to see why. That evening, she sent a message. If you're open to it, I'd like to apologize in person. He read it twice. He didn't feel pressure. He didn't feel guilt. Only choice. They met a few days later at a quiet cafe. He arrived early, hands wrapped around a warm cup, grounding himself. She arrived alone. I'm sorry, she said as soon as she sat down. Not just for the wedding. For what you've lived with. He nodded. Thank you for saying that. She hesitated. I didn't know this side of him. Or them. I believe you, he said. She looked relieved. I don't know what my marriage will look like, she admitted. But I know what I won't accept. They talked for a while. Not about blame. Not about anger. Just about boundaries. Back with his parents, the silence grew louder with each passing week. They waited for him to apologize. He didn't. Instead, he focused on his own life. He reconnected with friends he had slowly pulled away from. He started therapy, not because he was broken, but because he wanted clarity. He learned that love without respect is not love at all. One evening, his father finally called. You could have handled things better, his father said. He replied calmly. I handled them the only way I was allowed to. There was a pause. You embarrassed us, his father repeated. He smiled sadly. I think the truth embarrassed you. The call ended shortly after. Months passed. The story of the wedding faded for most people, but not for him, because something inside him had changed. He no longer felt the need to explain himself, or prove his worth. At a family gathering he chose to attend later, things were different. Relatives treated him with a new kind of respect. Some apologized quietly. His brother kept his distance. The parents were careful now, not warm, not loving, but careful. And that was enough. One day, he received a short message from his brother. I didn't think it would go this far. He didn't reply. Because sometimes, the loudest answer is silence. On a quiet evening, he cooked himself a full meal. He sat at the table alone, but not lonely. He realized something as he ate. The wedding had taken something from him, but it had also given him something far greater. Freedom. Freedom from needing approval. Freedom from being the family's excuse. Freedom to walk away when respect is missing. He washed his plate, turned off the lights, and looked at his reflection in the window. For the first time, he saw himself clearly, and he liked who he saw.